In this discourse, we're going to cover the very practical, psychological, and spiritual model for the soul as taught in the Tanya, a foundational text for the Chabad-Lubavitch branch of Hasidic Judaism. And it applies to everyone. It talks about the unceasing dialogue and tension between our two inner orientations. We have an animal soul and a divine soul, or what society might call our lower self and our higher self. These two souls or inner orientations shape perception, desire, and direction. This insight, articulated with profound clarity in the Tanya, reveals that a person is not a singular, unified impulse, but a living convergence of two souls. So one that's inclined towards self-preservation, expression, personal identity, comfort, ego. Another that is drawn toward transcendence, truth, connection with the divine, going beyond the self and the needs and the comforts. Now, it does not say that the lower self or the animal soul is wrong or evil. It says that living from there doesn't allow us to have a balanced, harmonious, fulfilling life. You could acquire lots of wealth. You can want to have praise. And it will eventually get old. And the being will say, I can't seem to get enough. There's still something that's just not making it to where I'm like, yeah. So if you stay in that lower realm, it's insatiable. The human experience unfolds in the space between these two forces, and the work of a lifetime emerges from learning how to navigate that inner terrain with awareness and intention. The essence of the teaching is discipline. What kind of discipline? I'm about to go in depth. And the root nectar of discipline is heightened awareness. That's the most simplified way of saying how to approach a livity of mindfulness, integrity, and connection with the Most High. At the center of this navigation stands the faculty of the mind. This is intellectual spirituality. The Tanya says we start with the mind. Yes, it is for analysis or abstraction. More than that, the mind is the sovereign capacity within the person. Our mind is endowed with the ability to contemplate what is true, what is enduring, and aligned with a higher purpose. Through disciplined thought and reflection that rises above impulse and immediacy, we're going above the typical programming of what we were born into or surrounded by, especially in the Western world. The mind becomes the architect of inner life. It introduces clarity where there was confusion, or if there was a drift, then there's orientation through the mind, and it provides meaning where there's fragmentation. So when a person engages the mind in this way through the art of contemplation, they begin to perceive their life as part of a coherent, purposeful whole. Consider for a moment a person standing at a crossroads in life. They're uncertain about their work. They're unsure of their direction. They're carrying a weight of feeling in between what has been and what could be. The mind, when it's awakened, it doesn't rush to panic or surrender to the pressure of immediate answers. Instead, it begins to contemplate. Be in your beingness and think deeply. What kind of life am I being called to build? You can think about it. You could speak it out loud to yourself. You could write it down. You could sing about it. whatever is natural for you in this art form of contemplation. What kind of life am I being called to build? What values endure beyond circumstance? What does integrity require of me in this moment? When you go into a still and deliberate inquiry, something begins to form. You don't have to come to a conclusion, a final answer, just a clarity of direction, a reorientation toward what is meaningful, rather than what is merely urgent. And we get stuck there because we have bills that have due dates, and we have responsibilities and loved ones that need to eat. And so the mind is saying, how do I go beyond that and land somewhere when I'm faced with something that feels so heavy and restricting? But when contemplation becomes a practiced art form and a discipline, then the mind becomes a stabilizing force, not something that throws us into disarray. It allows a person to stand with uncertainty without being overtaken by uncertainty. And most of us have been overtaken by uncertainty, and that's where overwhelm, anxiety, frustration, despair come from. Yet the mind alone does not complete the human experience. Beneath it lies the heart. This is our seat of emotion, longing, vitality. The heart doesn't automatically mirror the conclusions of the mind. More often than not, it's the last to follow and catch up with the knowledge or wisdom that the mind acquires. So this is where discipline comes in. It must be cultivated. The heart must be guided and awakened. The Tanya teaches that when a person dwells deeply on truths apprehended by the intellect, when one contemplates purpose and unity and connection and the presence of the divine in all moments, these ideas gradually descend into the emotional world, which is the special gift of our species, to have this vast and rich emotional spectrum, emotional body. And then it gives rise to love, reverence, awe, respect for life, a restraint due to that respect, love, awe, and reverence, and an inner resonance that animates action that the person will take. When I say that it gives rise to love, I'm talking about a closeness to God, wanting to be close with God, or wanting to be closer with God, or wanting to be as close as possible with God. But this is what contemplating deep truths consistently produces. It produces in the heart realm love, reverence, respect, awe, restraint, inner resonance. Now, when you go to take an action, there's something aligned, something that clicks within. So imagine that same individual that we were talking about before at the crossroads has come to recognize through reflection that their life is not without purpose. Their existence carries inherent meaning, and their efforts matter within a larger design. At first, this realization could feel distant, like it's just abstract, but as the person returns to it again and again and again and again and again in quiet, consciously designated moments, in reflection and contemplation, in stillness, it begins to soften something within the person. A sense of gratitude begins to emerge. Subtle at first, then more present. A feeling of awe arises. It's recognition that life is a gift and that the opportunity to act, choose, build something, all of that is significant. The heart awakens by the mind's clarity. The heart begins to align with the contemplations, and then there's an emotional awakening and alignment with the mind's clarity. What was once an idea becomes a lived experience. It's felt. From this union of mind and heart emerges the realm of action, where the invisible becomes visible and the internal takes form in the world. Action is the decisive expression of our inner life, where intention is tested and realized. Every choice, every word, every engagement with the material world becomes an opportunity to bring alignment into reality, to bring the divine to the earth. In the framework of the Tanya, one's daily work, one's efforts to build, sustain, and provide are not separate from spiritual life. There is a seamlessness. One's efforts to build, sustain, and provide, whatever we might consider the mundane even, no, that's the very arena in which spiritual life is enacted. So that same individual, still not in possession of every answer, begins to act. And they approach their work with renewed integrity, even if it's not their final destination or some cherished career or ultimate passion. They choose honesty in difficult situations and conversations. They offer their effort fully in a task that once felt meaningless. They use what they earn not only for themselves, but in ways that reflect their values. Whatever you're doing work-wise, if it gives you influence, if it gives you money, if it gives you freedom of time, the Tanya teaches all of that is to be used for good. Choose honesty. Act in a way that reflects your values. Use whatever the work does provide you to do good. In these actions, something profound occurs. Life, the whole life that you're living, begins to align. There's not a smoothness every day. The car is going to break down sometimes and the battery doesn't work, or someone's going to say something to you that is atrocious, or there's going to be a loved one that passes away. It's not that circumstances are smooth. It's that the individual is bringing intention into motion. The Tanya is not teaching to become perfect or strive for saintliness, nothing of the kind. It addresses an intermediate being that exists between the animal soul and the divine soul, because we are allowed to have abundance and pleasure and comfort and even notoriety. But that's not what matters most. What matters is what we do, what we say, and what we deliberately think. So with these teachings, the ordinary becomes elevated because we're transforming the consciousness brought into it. We're not changing its form. We're still making the bed. We're still gathering the groceries. But the consciousness brought into these things that we call ordinary has profoundly shifted. This progression from mind to heart and then to action offers a response to the experience of uncertainty, those moments in life many of us are at when direction feels obscured, the path forward appears indistinct. What is going on? God, reveal it to me. I've been praying for so many years. these cycles in life, or these seasons, or these moments, the teaching of the Tanya does not demand immediate emotional clarity or perfect conviction. Of course not. That's unrealistic. And it doesn't demonize ambivalence. It's okay to just not know or to be unsure. It calls the individual to return first to the mind, to reflect, to discern, to be subtly attuned, to ask what is true, what is meaningful, what aligns with a life of integrity and purpose. Because I see people out there living their purpose, but they're not living it with integrity. It must be both. From that place of thoughtful orientation, one allows the heart to gradually come into alignment, trusting that emotional clarity can be cultivated through sustained contemplation. Then, even before every doubt has been resolved, you could step into action, measured, deliberate, and guided by the best understanding available. Within this approach, there is a transformative assurance that we don't have to resolve every inner tension in order to live meaningfully and to move forward with strength. Can you imagine if we have to be totally clear about everything and understand ourselves fully and be completely healed of whatever we're afflicted with? That's not real life. And the presence of conflict doesn't signify failure. What it does signify is engagement in the very work for which the soul has descended into the world. So, through the steady practice of directing the mind, refining the heart, and committing to aligned action, one transforms not only isolated moments, but the entire texture of life itself. In this way, the teachings of the Tanya offer far more than a philosophy. It offers a lived path in which every thought, think about this, every thought, contemplate the truth of this, every thought can be elevated. Every emotion can be refined. Every action can become an expression of something higher. This is special. This is sacred. We don't see a whole world of people living this way or anything close to it. This is a path that meets a person precisely where they are. If you're searching, or if you're grounded, if you're certain about stuff, if you're in between, this will help guide you step by step toward a life of coherence, purpose, and deep, abiding connection.